a nice, loud, nice and vocal. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and you guys are just going to go nuts, okay? 1, 2, 3! Fantastic. He knows that you guys are ready. But Lee, should we give them a little taster of why we're up here and what we're doing?
Yes, absolutely. So by glancing at the screen, there's going to be a magical trailer that's going to come up.
Indeed.
Of one of my personal favourite games of all time for every adventure fan out there in the markets.
It's a nice build-up. Let's see this.
Let's just see the
This is what your little treat is today, guys.
Peggy 16.
Guys, can we have a massive round of applause for Broken Sword? This is beautiful. This is the thing now, Lee. We've got someone very special we'd like to bring up on stage, correct?
Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me greet, hopefully you also greet towards, the co-founder of Revolution, Charles Cecil.
Charles Cecil, everyone, please! You could give a little wave there, Charles, if you want. So I'm gonna hand you this, Charles.
There we go.
And it's this isn't working either. But yeah, it's absolutely brilliant to be here. And isn't EGX fantastic?
Is it fantastic?
And Sony, of course. What a wonderful collection. Hey!
I was going to say, it's incredible because we look back there at 20 years of play, and you know, the fact that Broken Sword, the original, came out in 1996, and you're here now with Broken Sword 5, The Serpent's Curse, and PlayStation 4 now as well.
Yeah. Well, the first Broken Sword came out in 1997.
Wow.
Which was, and that came out on the original PlayStation,
Yes.
which had only just launched. And it was extraordinary because all the other games were very 3D.
Very 3D.
I'm going to take this off because I
was gonna say. That's how loud you're going.
We're very, very 3D, and the consensus was that that's what everybody wanted. And this 2D game comes out, and it just did really well. People loved it, and we're hugely privileged that it can fit in amongst all the much more fast-moving games, and a slower game that makes you think and solve puzzles and everything. It's great.
Absolutely. I mean, we was discussing earlier today, like just how well adventure games have come back into the fold, and how in the crowd, how many of you fans are Broken Sword fans are experienced Broken Sword?
Hey, brilliant!
So for me, and I'm guessing for everyone else out there, when 5 came out and you obviously announced Kickstarter, which I was slightly over the moon with and obviously fully backed, I mean, what was it like getting the team back, getting people like George back and Nicole and all, Sergeant Moore as well, with his coffee and everything else?
What was great is that when we first started, we went through publishers, we went through retailers, and that was great. But we had no opportunity to hear directly from fans of the series. So when we launched this Kickstarter, suddenly we realised there was this extraordinary passion, and it was bewildering and wonderful. And the ability to communicate directly with fans of the series it's just amazing, and that wouldn't have been possible 5 years ago.
Not at all. I mean, I remember just getting the official PlayStation magazine and reading about games and, you know, trying to figure out between the crop what I wanted to play, what I wanted to experience, and I think that's what really stood out about Broken Sword, just the visuals, the emotion, the draw to it, and I think that's something you really replicate really strongly in Broken Sword 5.
Well, what we try to do is, I mean, we're very proud. I'm very proud of interactive and video games as a medium for entertainment and a medium for telling stories. And we kind of try to innovate. I mean, whether we do or not, it's a different thing. We try to innovate. And you've got such an amazing breadth of different types of games.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's extraordinary thing. I mean, I wrote my first game for the Sinclair ZX81 in 1981. Now,
Okay, I wasn't born then.
I was going to say, is anybody here born? Nearer the
Yes,
I am. So the first game, which was a text adventure, which was considered to be really sophisticated, we had absolutely no idea that it would turn into this extraordinary industry, creating these amazing games. It's obviously changed beyond recognition.
So one of the things that we really wanted to do with yourself today, and I'm sure the crowd's going to like this, is get them to actually ask you directly questions.
Please, yeah.
About, you know, anything they want, whether it be the characters, whether it be about the art designs. Also looking at Twitter to see if anyone's been tweeting about the event as well. So Tony was
Indeed, I'm just down here.
How's it going?
So we've been going around, we have been asking people, if you do want to ask a question, if you do the hashtag PlayStation EGX, Lee will go through the feed and he will find your questions. But what we're looking for are some Broken Sword fans. Now this is a very strict genre, really.
Yes.
So what we want is any fans of the game over here. You're a fan, sir, are you? Fantastic.
Look at that, straight
I like
in.
it. I've walked all the way over here to walk all the way back over here, but that's great.
And I thought there was going to be a long delay while we sort of looked around,
Yes.
hoping that someone would put their hand
I've
up.
been having people pinching me on the way through as well. By the way, we will be doing a really special signing session with Charles. He's very kindly given up his time today because he loves you guys, you the fans. So we will have that in a little bit, but let's get some questions. So if you guys want to know more about the artwork, anything about the series,
Could be absolutely anything.
exactly, have a little think of that while we ask the first question. Now, so what's your name? This is Peter, Charles, okay?
How's it going, Peter?
So
Peter,
Peter,
hello.
I'm just going to hand you the microphone and you can just ask the question.
Hi. How many concepts did each character go through?
How many
How many
concepts?
concepts did each character go through?
Oh, what a great question. Well, as you know, we rendered them because we moved from 640 to 480 up to 1080p. So we felt that we had to render them. So first of all, we draw them in black and white, really roughly. Then we produce in color. And ultimately, I sometimes went through 3 or 4 iterations. But to kind of go on the side, I'm a huge fan of Tintin. So whenever I start a new game, the first thing I do is I get out my Bible of Tintin characters. Because what I love about Tintin is the archetypal character. You know what you're going to get from the way that they're designed. We try and do the same thing. George and Nico are relatively realistic. And then further and further away from the main plot thread. So I want the characters to look more and more extreme in the way that they're going to depict what they're going to be like. So initially, often it's a character maybe from Tintin, it's a photograph. The waiter, for example, was Serge Gainsbourg.
Yes.
Because, I mean, again, for those of you, and there aren't very many, who would remember Je T'aime, which was just the most amazing single from the time. And he was so sexual, and that's what I kind of wanted to convey. So we'll have archetypal characters from either games or Tintin or whatever, and then photos. And then our concept artists will come up with 4 or 5 sketches, and we'll choose that, and it'll get honed down, and then we pass it to a modeler, and the modeler will then model it and get as close as they can.
Beautiful, great. Now, I'm getting pinched down here now. My gentleman here, what's your name? Naji. Naji's got a question for you, Charles.
Hi, Naji.
Okay, Naji, what's your question?
Hi, Charles. I've just stumbled upon this. One of the first games I ever played was Broken Sword 2, and I absolutely loved it. My question for you is, which of the Broken Swords is your favourite and why?
Oh, this is a question he never answers.
It's kind of funny because we talked about this earlier. We had a bit of a conflict between us about which ours were the favourite. So, what is your favourite out of the series?
Does anybody here have any children?
No. Oh no, there's one.
Right. So it's like asking which is your favourite child.
So everyone's got a favourite, basically.
I loved working on the first one because I At that time, nobody had heard of the Knights Templar. It felt very fresh. It was very fresh. There was a book called Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco. And on the other hand, you had this book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, which was full of nonsense. It was the one that Dan Brown used as the basis for the Da Vinci Code. And that was great. I'm not going to answer your question very well. I love working on Broken Sword 5 because it was great to go to high res. But then it just looks different, so...
It's almost like each game is special for its own reason.
Yeah.
Like say graphically, the experience, the music.
I'm going to be like a politician and not actually answer your question directly, and maybe talk about them all. I think the first one I really loved. The second one was quite rushed, but you say you really enjoyed it. The third one we went to 3D, of course, and I'm quite proud of what we did because the technology was quite basic at the time, and that was the first that went on to PlayStation 2, and. The fourth one was done under a lot of pressure, and the fifth one was great because it was fantastic to get feedback from our community. We gave, I really valued the opportunity through the Kickstarter to be able to get people's comments, and quite a lot of the ideas changed. When we did the Kickstarter, I wanted to get a balance between getting people's feedback but not spoiling the puzzles or the story, and I hope we got that about right.
I think you did. I think, it was... Again, I was looking at some of the puzzles and going, why have I got to put the dog in the water in Broken Sword 2? To try and then get over the fence and then get in the warehouse and then obviously later discover then Nicole's trying to share. So, I think it really works, but it also created the humour because obviously there's at times where there's serious matters and then you just get that bright little spark out of a puzzle and it just completely changes it.
Well, that's very kind of you, but that came from, I was brought up on Sierra adventures like King's Quest, and King's Quest in particular really took itself much too seriously, particularly towards the end. The first ones were fun, and then, very, very talented Roberta Williams got more and more, I was going to be rude there, took herself much, much too seriously. King Graham of Daventry, which, Daventry's not far from here, is it?
No, it really isn't. It's about 20 miles away.
Yeah, well, there you go. And Daventry, bless it, is not likely to be the centre of this mythical kingdom. That's if there's anybody from Daventry, then apologies.
No, there's not. You're
Tony,
right.
I thought Tony was going to jump in there.
So yeah, as I said, as a politician, I've totally avoided your question. But thank you for asking it.
Charles, great answer. We're getting a lot of nodding heads down here as well. A lot of people saying, yeah, especially when you're talking about the game in depth. So I do think we've got a lot of fans. I do have another fan that would like to ask a question.
Absolutely.
What's your name?
Victoria.
This is Victoria. Charles, Victoria.
Victoria, hello.
Charles.
Thanks so much for coming.
Basically, one of the things I really love about Broken Sword is the humour in the game. My favourite is Sleeping Dragon. But I did notice that in number 5, the humour was kind of toned down. Was there a particular reason for that, or?
Okay, did you like the humour in Sleeping Dragon?
Yeah.
It was the same team. Maybe we've just lost our sparkle. Or maybe we've lost our sparkle.
Or your comedy's gone a different direction, maybe.
Yeah. Which 1 and 2 was with, that was at the end of the 90s, and there's a very talented writer that I wrote the game with called Dave Cummins, and he didn't then work on the later ones. So 1 and 2 have got one particular style, and 3, 4 and 5 have got a slightly different style. But I'm delighted that you felt that 3 worked. Maybe our emphasis was on trying to make it a little bit more serious. I don't know. But hopefully you still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we do have another question over here, Charles.
Absolutely.
Charles, I'm just over here. This is Hazel. Charles.
Hazel.
Okay, I'll just hand over the microphone. Hazel?
Hello, Hazel.
Hello. Firstly, Broken Sword was my first ever PlayStation game.
Lovely.
And I just fell in love with it immediately.
Bless you.
When did you realise, wow, this has just taken off. Everybody's fallen in love with it. There's a chance for a sequel here, and it developed for one game.
That's really.
If no one heard that, is when did he realise that this was a real wow game and it's taken off and there's potentials for sequels? Good question, Hazel.
That is a great question, and I'm just trying to make sure that I don't go on for too long. When we first produced Broken Sword, the thing about an adventure game is all the components don't work until they come together. And so our publisher, Virgin, who were very supportive at the time, didn't see it as a very big game. And then we had Rolf Saxon as our George and Hazel Ellaby as our Nico, and I had met in Dublin at a college called Ballyfermot a gentleman who was lecturing there who created all our layouts. And those layouts were so much better than anything I'd seen before. The music was from a friend called Barrington Phelan, who by extraordinary serendipity I played cricket with 5 years earlier when we were both sort of starting out. So Owen's layouts and Rolf's voice and Barrington's music kind of came together in that first Broken Sword. And people realised it was going to be good. But our first review was absolutely rotten. And it was rotten because our publisher gave the game before it was finished to a magazine to review. And in those days, that kind of had to happen, and they were going to account for the fact that it wasn't finished. But they didn't, so they slammed it. So it was a real, when that review came through, we had this confidence, and that absolutely bashed our confidence. We thought, maybe this isn't the game we thought, maybe this isn't special. But thankfully the reviews after that did really well. And then Sony chose to commission it for the PlayStation, which was absolutely brilliant. And against all the expectations, it sold really well, it got great reviews, and it took off from there. Now, I told you it was a great story. This is going to be a long answer. Broken Sword 2, Virgin said they didn't want to commission it, even though the game had been very successful. So we finally convinced them to. But at the end of that, our publisher, Virgin, had decided that point-and-clicks were dead, and indeed the PC was dead. And so that's why Broken Sword 3 was very much over at console, because that's what the retailers and the publishers wanted, and that was why we moved to 3D. So I sort of answered your question, I hope.
No, you did.
But thank you.
It's PlayStation's advantage. We're very happy with that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Virgin.
Should we have two more questions?
Exactly. We've got three.
I
I had a quick question though. How's your cricket then? Do you still play?
I was rubbish then and I'm rubbish now.
Okay,
I can't say much either.
Okay, we do have Ben here, and he does have a question that might be answered quite quickly.
Sorry, Ben.
What's the RAM like in this game?
What's the RAM like in this game?
Sorry, for a moment I thought you were talking a very technical question about, the DRAM and the VRAM and all that sort of stuff.
I thought it was a cricket term, personally.
The GOAT. What I wanted to do for this and all of the Broken Sword games is reward fans who know the series but not alienate people who don't. So you can play through Broken Sword 5 and there is a GOAT, of course. In fact, there are two GOATs. And there are in-jokes in there, but not to the extent, I hope, that it'll alienate people who don't recognise them. So what happens is that if you played the GOAT puzzle in the first game, right, okay, well you'll find that there's a similar sort of setup, which we hope is going to be fun because it's familiar, but maybe it's not quite as contrived as the first one, I hope. But thank you, that's a great question.
We do have a really young fan down here, Charles.
Yes.
This is Connor. Connor, come here, buddy.
Connor.
Now he's got a really cool question for you.
What got you into making the game?
So what got you into making the game? What was your inspiration?
Gosh, thank you. What a great question. I am really, really, really lucky because when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to be. So I went to university to study engineering, and I met a fellow engineer who had just started a games company called Arctic Computing. And I think it might have been Europe's first games company. And by extraordinary luck, he said to me, why don't you write games for me? So I started writing adventure games. So my advice to you, if you love games, do you love games? My advice to you is whenever opportunities come, absolutely grasp them. Because then you'll go off in directions that you can't expect. But that's part of the fun of it.
Indeed.
Or else write software for banks, and then you'll make a lot more money. And that's good advice as well.
But the magic happens outside the box. So always think outside the box. Oh, we do have Matthew here. He's got a question. Have we got time?
Yeah, we'll do one more
Yes,
question.
Matthew, where you going, buddy?
Shadow Shadow Tetris is my favourite game of all time.
Thank you.
I was wondering, is there any way to get on non-Tetris? So I've been trying to find it for ages.
You're at Tetris. Just go to our website, revolution.co.uk. We give away Lure of the Temptress.
Okay.
And we give away Beneath the Steel Sky. And do I have time to briefly say why?
Of course you can.
Lure of the Temptress was 1994, I think, and Beneath the Steel Sky was 1996. And in those days, we wrote them for DOS, okay, because DOS was the main format, and they were supported by the Windows that came out. And then I think it was Windows 98 that stopped supporting DOS. So you couldn't play the game anymore, and it got forgotten about. And then these brilliant people called Scum VM, they wanted to reboot these adventures. And we gave them all the source code, and they rewrote it so it could be played on modern systems. And our view was that because the games couldn't be played without them, we would just give it away for free. So the game's readily available. It's also available on iPhone as well, or on iOS. And we may bring it to other formats. Yeah, we're hugely flattered. I mean, it was written with a really cool comic book artist called Dave Gibbons, who created Watchmen with Alan Moore. I mean, does everybody know Watchmen? Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Loads of nodding heads.
And Dave is wonderful, and I have the pleasure of a dinner with him next week. And we're going to be talking about, well, we just think it's about time we did another game together, and that would be a huge pleasure and a privilege to be able to do that.
That is such a great way to end the questions, isn't it?
Indeed.
That's incredible.
Can we have a massive round of applause for Charles taking the time out to come here?